Hello, and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Doug Kimball at Ontotext.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the Dataversity Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp, and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Dataversity, and this is My Career in Data, a Dataversity Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there, and to be talking with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Doug Kimball, the Chief Marketing Officer at Ontotext. And normally, this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest. But in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Doug, hello and welcome.
Hi, Shannon. I'm excited to be here. I like to flip with the twist here, not starting off with all about me, because we're going to talk all about me. No, I'm kidding. I'm excited. I think I love what you guys are doing with this. This is an outstanding effort.
Thank you so much. We are here to talk about you and how you got to where you are. So let's start with that. So you're the Chief Marketing Officer at Ontotext. So what is Ontotext?
We are a knowledge graph company. That's probably the shortest version of the answer. If you look at the differences between like a relational database like Access and a knowledge graph, it's about as different as your brain is to a computer chip. It can do knowledge graphs, create relationships, understand data better, help drive analytics. There's a ton of things that knowledge graphs do. If you never seen them before, but if you use Google or if you use IMDb or Uber or things like that, you've used a knowledge graph. So that's what we do.
Oh, I love that description. I haven't heard that before, and that's a very good description, very understandable description.
Trying to make it spin.
Well, let's talk about that. So you're the CMO.
Right.
So what is it that you do at Ontotext?
If I summed it up, there's two ways I sum it up. My and the team's key focus is on two main things: market awareness. Who is Ontotext, and what do we do? Why do we do it? And then basically demand generation, lead generation. So how do we then say, okay, cool, I want to go buy something from Ontotext because I need their data management knowledge graph services. So big buckets is what we as a marketing team focus on, my overall arching, driving pillars. But my big job really is strategy and vision. So bringing in the years of experience I have and saying, let's try this, let's look at it this way, let's try these plans, let's try these programs, these channels, different ways of doing things, and just providing that vision to say, here's where we're trying to go after, here's what we're trying to close from a business standpoint, here's where we want to make people aware, and then laying out the plan. I've got a great team that I work with, so that makes my job a lot easier.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's talk about then that experience. So let's back it up quite a bit here. And so Doug, when you were very young in what in the US we call elementary school, was this the dream? You're like, I'm going to grow up to be a CMO at a knowledge graph company.
Absolutely. I mean, I wrote it down, but no, I'm kidding. If I listened to what my mom told me, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed something in this whole process going from astronaut to CMO. But my earliest recollections of being an astronaut, probably because I'm old. Not long after the moon landing, actually I was alive during the moon landing. Never mind, I take it. So I think those little things are on my mind. I remember watching the TV. But as I grew up, I always found I was very good at talking to people, and people wanted to talk to me and share and tell their stories. And here's my challenges and my problems. So ended up going into psychology and becoming a counselor. Again, counselor, CMO. We'll come back to that.
It's fascinating. So you got your degree in counseling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a professional counselor for 7 years. I did personal counseling, academic counseling. My biggest focus was academic, but also did career counseling part-time. So it not only was it a good evolution from being a psychology major, but it was also, it fit me. In other words, I like I said, people like to come to me and ask, hey, not just, hey, Doug, I'm having a bad day, but I'm not sure what to do. And I'm a natural problem solver, but also try to abstract from that and say, well, let's talk about what's really going on before we get to the problem solving.
Tell me a little bit about academic counseling. What is that?
So I had the fortune to work with basically, I'll call it a startup. It was a part of the university, an athletic study center. So it was a place where the student athletes could go to get everything from mentoring, guidance, time management, proofreading. We did not do their work. I will completely 100% never did their work, but we helped them to do their work. In other words, sometimes they didn't come in with the best understanding of how to use an education system or how to put a paper together or how to, and they got tutoring. So it was really about, again, enablement, which again, I keep finding as this key theme of things I've done over my last several years. It was about enablement and support. And we grew this athletic study center from a very small organization to something that the NCAA schools actually started reaching out to us and recognizing as an interest. So we got brought into things. It was a great period of my life. I learned a ton about project management, about education, about teaching and support. So.
Wow, that's very cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd be very envious of that experience.
It was good. It's
Yeah.
You work with diverse people, diverse populations. You go from people who, just take a student athlete who was #1 in their school, in their state, in their region, maybe, and they come into the university being the #1 person at XYZ, and now we're with a bunch of #1s. It's a mindset change, and then also I think it really helped me to understand the need for communication and collaboration even further, because you had to take this person who they were great, but how do you help them understand they're great like everybody else is in the same level, and how do you turn that greatness into action that gets seen, observed, and used?
Oh, that's amazing. What a rewarding experience.
It was fun. It was fun.
So then tell me, so what was the transition from counseling?
I had an opportunity to go work for the Nielsen company. One of my best friend worked there, and so you should because he knew I was doing a lot with technology. I was starting my computer lab, and I was doing my version of technology. And it's not, I'm not a SQL programmer, but I had gotten to the point with what I had done with both counseling and the career counseling. I checked all the boxes. This is cool. This is fun, but I felt like there was something more out there. So I interviewed for a sales job. Horrible. I did a horrible interview. That's why I didn't get into sales right away. It was just there. But there's something about the guy, that's something I said the guy really liked, and he passed me on to a consulting VP there who brought me in for a second interview. I did something right there. And so I made the switch from education to business. And I remember the second week I'm flying back from a training conference, looking out the window going, a planogram and brand placement versus cross placement. I'm like, what have I done? It just, but it worked out okay.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about that job.
Yeah, so they originally tried to turn me into a programmer because there was a VBA was huge, and we did a lot of customized work for our clients. And so they took me through training, and they had guys sit with me, and I could write a real basic set of code and just sort of understand it, but it just wasn't me. But they liked my attitude and everything. So one day my boss said, hey, I got a project management job for you at one of our largest clients, a manufacturer in Chicago. And I need you to go and kind of take over this project and run it. I'm like, okay, cool. And they were in good shape there. They like us, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So I walk in and I sit down in the guy's office and say, hi, I'm Doug. I'm here to take over this project of X, Y, and Z. He says, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. I want you and the company out of my building by tomorrow and not to come back. So good, friendly conversation.
Yeah.
I've been with Nielsen at that point maybe 5 months. So there's a bit of the deer in the headlights. Holy crap! I completely BS my way through the next 10 minutes of the conversation, saying basically, I'm here to succeed. I'm here to make a difference for this company. I'm here to, you can kick me out. I'll be back the next day and the next day and the next day. Why I didn't use that mindset during my sales interview, I don't know why. But I mean, on the outside, Mr. Calm, cool, and collected, sweet. On the inside,
Yeah.
and he looked at me for what, for like an hour, and eventually said, "Okay, you've got one chance. Don't it up." And so I scurried out there. And because I had a great team, and I just decided to make it happen, I helped to drive that program we delivered to success for both the companies. I became the subject matter expert for it for the company, for Nielsen. I helped go out and sell it and market it over the next year or so, because I had brought it to, I was the guy who knew it all about that particular thing. Because of that success, the company who built the tool for us brought me in as a director of operations, because they knew there was an expanding web company. And so I went from Nielsen to this web company to be the director of operations and take over a team of, I think I had 28 people when I joined, thereabouts, and you kind of manage all that. And so just, again, interesting hopscotch of opportunities. So again, going from counseling to business, sorry, go ahead.
No, I love that story. That is a story of determination. That is a story of believing in yourself and really taking it forward.
Yeah.
So
there was some fake it till you make it, but
yeah, sure.
I had a good friend when I joined the company. He said, this is a new world for you, but you've got the ability to make it successful. You just have to take it. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Very cool. So you now you're with this new company.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're doing there and what's next.
So yeah, I'll do. It's a bit of a hopscotch from there. So I was basically, there was a 3 leader. I was one of the 3 leaders of the company, working directly with the founder, and they had a founder, and I brought in a seasoned CEO, and myself are kind of the triumvirate. Helped to continue to put processes in place. I helped write a project management manual. I introduced the concept of product marketing to them, channel sales development, a lot of just I was a salesperson. I was an operations leader. I was a team manager, restructured the team reporting structure, brought some of the little bit of corporate mindset I had into what was, very much typical of the dot boom type of stuff, like working 24 hours for one day and then being gone for 18, or sleep. Just put some structure around that. We had a merger and acquisition that I still came out on a decent side of, no money, but at least I was still in a good position. I wasn't let go. But around that time, the guy, one of the leaders I had worked with at the Nielsen company before, was now working for another new company based in, I think it was Jersey, and had been talking to me for a while, and trying to recruit me. And long story short, went to work for him for, I was at that job for a year and a half-ish. Yeah. So, and then went back to the Nielsen company because my job changed, and they opened up a opportunity to run the consulting division for, I think it was the Midwest. So that's why my career has been a very puzzling, convoluted path that I've been very fortunate of. But if I look at Dataversity there, it started to sink in on me probably halfway through the journey how much I've been involved with or around data. From the one company was called UCCnet, and they basically standardized barcode documents and the communication, the synchronization of all that information, G10s, et cetera. So data. Obviously Nielsen the first time, Nielsen the second time, demographic data, firmographic data, people data, product, data goes on and on.
Yeah.
So
then where do you go from there to your current job, Ontotext?
So went from Nielsen. They went through a layoff series. I think I lasted through the 5th one. I got let go there. Enjoyed, not at all, being unemployed for a year and a half, which I do not recommend to anybody. Took a job with a supply chain company, again in sales, based in Chicago. I was there maybe 3 months before, me constantly asking about marketing needs. Do we do this? Do we do this? We thought about this. And they basically said, okay, you're not being a sales guy anymore. That's like 6 months. So they made me the director of marketing. They had a marketing person, but they were mainly just very one event focused thing. So got put as a director of marketing, started to build out a marketing team. It was a small company. We had like 4 or 5 people on the marketing team, and just continued to build that out and grew. Again, it was a company based in Brazil, so I got to go to Brazil for work, which is really, very cool. Especially since my hobby is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I've been doing that for almost 16 years. Wow. that company, they did a nice merger, they grew, but then they started to cut back based on some of the leadership in Brazil making some changes. Was unemployed for a little bit. Then I went over to JDA, the largest supply chain company now called Blue Yonder. Came on there as a product marketing director, which I loved because I'd been doing product marketing in some forms or fashion over the last couple of years. And I think it was at JDA where I really came into my own being. I came up with a concept that hadn't been used before. It was I called it the supply chain grid, and it got adopted throughout the company. I saw it in mainstay. It was pretty cool to be a product marketing person and having this impact on a global organization like that. I got to do a lot of fun things and learned a lot. We worked with some really good and really smart people. I still stay in touch with a couple of them. Then I went to, I was at the point where my boss had left, and I wanted to find, I was kind of grow, but I was kind of stuck at the director level. And I really wanted to take a VP title as my next segment. And so I changed jobs for a company that was very interesting, got a VP job there. And 4 to 5 weeks in, I went, I'm in the wrong company.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't take long before I'm like, yay, VP. And I don't mind working hard, but again, it was related to data. It was more about exchanging transportation data and the signals and everything from ocean vessels to trucks to shipment. It was a fascinating company. They do great things. Just we'll leave the rest of it out. So I ended up being recruited by the guy who I used to work for. I was at JDA to go work for a master data management company. Hey, we're back. We're even deeper into data now. So I worked in master data management for about 4 years. Started out as VP solutions strategy, and basically, in short, VP of product and industry marketing. We had to change the title for a variety of reasons, but ran a team there. Did a lot of thought leadership, a lot of presentations, a couple of podcasts before we even had Dataversity. I don't know if you know Scott, the data whisperer, Scott Taylor. Yeah. I've known Scott since the TD Lynx days when I was back at Nielsen. So we connected, and we continue to stay connected. I got to have a lot of really cool experiences. I learned so much when I was there to expand my marketing tactics, vision, strategy, how to do things differently, better, faster. So it was a great experience with great people. Learned a lot more about data management. Going back to me being second grade, looking at data management, I learned a ton. So it was a good process for most of it.
More and more companies are considering investing in data literacy education, but still have questions about its value, purpose, and how to get the ball rolling. Introducing the newest monthly webinar series from Dataversity, Elevating Enterprise Data Literacy, where we discuss the landscape of data literacy and answer your burning questions. Learn more about this new series and register for free at dataversity.net.
Nice. And now you are CMO.
Yep. And now I'm CMO, and they went through again a couple of cuts based on marketing. They had to cut budgets across the thing. But fortunately, I had a good introduction into the recruiting process that was going on for this job. Went through I think it was 7 or 8 people in part of the process, and either they lost their mind or they found the right candidate. I'm not sure, but so joined Ontotext in early November of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Been pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love your story. It's one full of triumphs and challenges.
No question.
Congrats on persevering and really just turning it into success. That's amazing.
What's helped is having a lot of good leaders and mentors. And if I give anybody any advice as they go through their career journey, is find a mentor or more mentors, because even the mentors that might bug you, annoy you, and make you really like, oh, why am I? They make you think differently and learn differently and respond differently. I would not be where I am right now without some very good leaders behind me.
That's some really great advice, and let's come back to that here in a minute. So at Ontotext, so now you've worked with data, especially after working with an MDM company and going through that. So what is your definition of data?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've used an example before that has used to drive some of my colleagues nuts because I used it a lot, but it's the difference in my mind between digitization and digitalization.
Oh.
Okay. So I don't know, I got my phone. So I take a picture of me. Okay.
Yeah.
I've now created an item of data.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got, it's an image of me. So it's unstructured data, but it's data.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to, so I've now digitized me as a data point. But digital by itself does nothing. If I then send that picture up to, I don't know, to Google Photos as an example, now I can potentially digitalize that because it can scan me and, hey, Doug's in this here, the connection here, and maybe you look like this person, or you get added to Google search index. I've now digitalized my data into something that is being used as an activity versus just hey, it's a great selfie. That's one way I look at data. It's not information. Sorry, information is different. Data is just a piece of something that we then have to apply context, interpretation, information, a question, a need.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a picture of me. It's just a picture. It's nothing until somebody goes, hey, we need a profile pic of Doug or let's do a face matching game and see what, then it becomes useful.
Yep. I love that. I love that definition. So, and tell me, especially in marketing, I assume you use a lot of data in your daily job. How do
I
you
rely
interact
on
with
people
data?
who are really good at using and giving me data. Yes, because I'm not. It's ironic. I mean, I'm the guy that's been around data for years. I'm not a heavy analytics person.
Mhm.
I'm very good at messaging and positioning and spotting patterns and things that don't make sense as part of data.
Mhm.
But I'm not a data analytics person. I've got a fantastic marketing director who lives for understanding Google Analytics and the details, and is not just looking at it and saying, hey, here's something we should change here because of this. We do the same thing with our ABM campaigns, make sure we're analyzing data properly, get the right results. I probably do use a lot more data in my thinking than I like to acknowledge, because I like to really realize reading is data.
For sure.
Reading a sentence and learning about data mesh or data fabric or knowledge graphs or semantic technology, or you fill in the blank. It's reading, so I'm bringing data in order for me to do things, whether it's messaging, positioning, giving guidance, giving vision, suggesting changes to our product, demos. So you're making me think. I like this.
I love it too, and I love that you talk about reading, because that hasn't been brought up before, and that that's very true. You're consuming data as you're learning anything.
Yeah.
So that's
I'll
great.
give my wife a lot of credit, because one day, and this was a transition here. One day, she's listening to me talk about my job for ad nauseum. And I was trying to explain the difference between MDM and knowledge graphs, because she understands the pieces of what I talk about. And she said, so MDM is like the letters of the alphabet, and a knowledge graph is like a sentence. I got really quiet in the car for a while. She's like, did I get it wrong? I'm like, no, that's really good. And I kind of added to that. It's like they create the sentence because now it adds context and meaning to the letters.
Right.
But that truly is how you look at data, is you just start off with a little something, and then it should go from that something into information,
Yeah.
and then have it information structured in a way that now you can get some insights out of, or even just wisdom to say, now I learned something new. So I thought I actually used it in my briefing documents for an event, and people liked it. So it was good.
That is very good. So having that experience with data, and so do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
10's a hard one because of all the changes just in the last 9 months that have people freaked out about Chat GPT and generative AI and LLMs. That said, I can't see the jobs going down, because people who understand how to get to the data, how to interpret the data, how to connect the data, people like data architects, data engineers, I think also data storytellers, the people who can then make sense of the data. You get people who are really, really good at bringing it all together, but they can't tell you what to do with it as a result of. And so people who can take that analytic brain, the what if, and to tell the story about well, this data means, blah, blah, blah. Here's some suggestions. Here's some guidance. But then also, I think data creatives, I'm not sure that's the right term, but people who can look at what comes out of data and apply an interpretation to that you and I might not think about, because we think like this, and very people who are very creative and data centric. What if you turn the data like that, and I have a vision in my head of like when Tony Stark and Iron Man has this big visual thing he's rotating around and going, oh, look like that. But that's how I approach a lot of problems. I deal with is, okay, what if I look at it from the left-hand side and underneath a bit, can I see things a little more clearly? Now, I can't do that with data all the time, but there are people who have that ability to truly connect the dots and make sense of it. So long answer, I think somebody who's got an interest in a data career, their biggest challenge is which part.
So tell me about that. So what advice then would you give to people looking into a data career? How do they find which part in data management?
I'm a huge fan of internships, having come from the career counseling world, years ago. Internships, ride-alongs, those kinds of things are very helpful. A ton of resources on the internet, but everything from watching webinars to just get a sense of, no, that doesn't sound like me. That doesn't sound interesting. Changing a mindset that not every job sits behind a desk for 8 hours a day. I think it's a mindset thing. Well, just poking around, learning, asking people questions, paying attention to podcasts like you're putting together to say, oh, there's a job I didn't even know existed. That to make that hop back, that's how I got into project management. When I was back at my university job, they needed to install a whole new computer lab, and I was taking over the job, and they said, well, we're making a contract, because it was a contract job for the summer. You're the project manager for blah blah blah. I said, project manager? That sounds like what I like to do. But I never knew there was a job or a title like that. I'm like, yeah, cool.
That's very. You mentioned before getting mentors.
Yeah.
How have you found your mentors throughout your career?
That's another good question. I think I've been a little fortunate in that I've had people that I've worked for and with that have been very sharp. And for me, some of it's just come down to, is this person the right feel for what I need to try to learn, where I need to challenge myself? Somebody I will trust to poke at my holes. In other words, Doug doesn't know this stuff yet. And, hey, Doug, you need to add these people you trust who are not just smart, but good at helping you to become smarter. And that's a hard one to easily go, oh, yeah, is that in the phone book? Is in my, but I think, even just asking people, hey, I'm looking to help me, find somebody who can make me better, smarter at ABM. I mean, I'm in my world. I understand how to do, SQL joins more effectively, or who's been through this, and start from the beginning, just asking questions, having that bit of boldness that I'm trying, and positioning that I'm trying to better myself as a playing. And you've been in a successful career, a little bit of butter up, help me to understand things. And so I think people in general are always like to help.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And I love that you aren't taking this journey by yourself. You've had help along the way. Yeah. I don't think anyone can make it on their own.
I completely agree. That's one of the harder points when you get to being a C-level, is that it's a little harder to get mentors at that level. Not at that level, I'm not saying that right, but when you're a VP, there's always somebody above you. As CMO, I mean, I've got a CEO I can talk to, but he's got the business he's running. So I'm trying to get back in touch with my former CMO, because he and I always played well together. Just to, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? No, you're stupid. Don't do this. Thump him on the chest and go on. But we've always been good about bouncing ideas off of each other. So that's, again, I need to be vulnerable and say, I'm not always sure what I'm doing.
I love that. That's great. So you seem to have followed your passion, like, initially going into counseling because that was a good fit for you, and following passion of what's next and really finding something that works for you, finding a company that didn't work for you and saying, okay, I need to move.
Right.
So yeah, that's really amazing. Any other advice you give to people getting into a career in data management?
Yeah, I learned taking the time to learn more. And the reason I really emphasize that is, again, when I was in the MDM company, we did data management. And I've gone to 3 or 4 conferences just this year who are focusing on data management. Well, it's a data analytics conference, it's data management. And
Yeah.
so I try to look at the world from how I just walked into it. So I just walked into this conference and I know I need a data management solution of some kind. That's all I know. And you've got 90 vendors saying, oh, we do data management. I mean, Dataversity does data management because so helping to break down what is it that I'm most interested in, as you said earlier, passionate about. What is that calling to me? Is it, hands-on coding? Is it interpretation? Just, taking the time to learn.
Absolutely. And do you find that you are using all your experiences in your current role, including your counseling?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I can. There's times I look, and by the way, I'm getting lightning here, so I'm hoping I don't lose power. That would really be
Okay.
bad. Yeah, I think I definitely think so. And that's one of the things when I got out of counseling into the business, I asked myself the question: how is this going to translate? And it didn't take more than, I think, a couple of years before I really realized that it's the same thing. How are you today? What are you here to do? How can I help you fix your problems, the challenges, solutions, plug it in? What do you think are the challenges you need? And getting people to talk and articulate themselves. And then getting to, here to identify a plan in order to solve that. The only thing I do look back that I find is amusing is, growing up, I was the kid, my mom said, you need to enunciate, you need to slow down, you need to stop mumbling. And now for my last, I guess, 8 years of jobs, I've been being the guy who's out there talking. Up on stage presenting, I'm doing podcasts, and I'm the mumbler.
Oh, no, you've been very well spoken.
Practice, I guess.
Indeed. Well, Doug, this has been great. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask if people were curious about Ontotext and obtaining a knowledge graph, how would they get a hold of Ontotext?
It does several ways. I mean, I always suggest our LinkedIn, one LinkedIn location, just Ontotext, on the LinkedIn, because we post a lot of informational pieces there, case studies, conversations, again, as part of education. Depending where they're looking, it just helps them understand what is that particular piece of the world, not just knowledge graphs, but semantic technology, et cetera. Obviously, our website on ontotext.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me and just ask a question. Happy to help out. It's all about learning.
I love it. Thank you so much. And we'll get those links from you and get it posted to the podcast page as well. So, Doug, I really enjoyed this conversation. I really love your journey. So congratulations on where you are and the journey you've taken.
Thanks for the forum to share it. Again, there's like I said, there's days I just sit here in amazement going, really? Cool.
I understand that very much. So, well, thank you again so much. And to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest in podcasts and in the latest in data management education, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time. Thank you for listening to Dataversity Talks, a podcast brought to you by Dataversity. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.